the finesse, the touch, the footwork, the ability to work in that area of the court just doesn't exist. It doesn't. I'm sorry.
Coach Scott, in your response to Coach Dale, out of all the players we just talked about, I want you to add this in: Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, and Steph. Rank those players 1 through 4 from the GOAT all the way to the 4th ranked player in your response to everything Coach Dale just said.
Ooh, that's a hell of a question, Abaya.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
That's a hell of a question. It's easy for somebody who's not a subjective person. It's easy for a LeBron hater. It is very, very, very easy. And you know what? I'm gonna call Gary, and I'm gonna have him call you. To explain why.
He even got called Gary. Gary stood us up. He was scared to come on here. He didn't want to have this conversation.
Oh wow, Gary, no man.
Yeah, he stood up. He didn't want to come. All right, we back. So like I said before, man, we about to talk about the greatest players of all time. Let me rephrase that. Some of the greatest players of all time. But we want to do so within their eras, right? And obviously we know that who's the GOAT of all time comes up. But I want to start off with the obvious, Michael Jordan. Let's talk about Michael Jordan in his era. Coach Scott, how did he dominate his era? How was he great? What made him the greatest player of that era? Because we know they had all type. Magic Johnson, all right, Charles Barkley. You had Larry Bird in the 80s, all right, and that kind of went out in the 90s. You had Isaiah Thomas. We had Patrick Ewings. I mean, the list just goes on and on. What made what made Michael Jordan the greatest player in that era, the 80s going into the 90s? What's your thoughts on that?
I think Mike had the combination of it all. He had speed, quickness, the ability to jump, and his competitive greatness was just unparalleled. He was unmatched as it pertained to one-on-one. He was unmatched in the ability, the way that he saw the court, and then from a defensive standpoint, a player that could compete on the offensive side and really go after another team's best player defensively. I think that's what separated Mike in his era, his competitive greatness and his ability to kind of isolate anyone from a one-on-one standpoint on the offensive side of the ball. But from a defensive standpoint, he can eliminate your top 1 or 2 players. He could eliminate them, and that's what separated him in that 80s, 90s era.
So let's not be politically correct, right? We got it. You just went down the road of, hey, he was great, he was this, he was that. Man, was Jordan playing against plumbers? Is that what made him so good? Like, who was he playing? Who was his competition? Because you know the rumors, Jordan had no competition. That's what they saying. That's what they saying. You know, we don't, the 90s guys, that's what they say. He played against plumbers. Right. You think he played against plumbers?
He wasn't playing against plumbers. I think he was playing against a couple of roofers, but not plumbers. But honestly, man, no. Mike played against his fair share. Was it comparable to, the week in, week out, game in, game out talent of today's game? I would question it for sure. But in everyone's era, the greatness is what it is. You know what I mean? He couldn't morph or jump into a time machine and play in this era. But he did what he did. He played against the competition he had, and he was the greatest of that era for sure. All right. Hands down.
So you were questioning. Okay, Jordan might have played against some roofers. I wouldn't call them plumbers. Maybe some lawn guys. Okay, I hear you, Coach Ayo. He said they were roofers. He said they were lawn guys. I think pool cleaners. What else you said, Coach Scott? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
road
stuff like
pavers
that,
and all this type of stuff. They weren't really basketball players, right? Is that what he said? Okay, that sounds like what he said to me. Coach J.O., you think Jordan was playing against plumbers? Because that is I don't know let's just be real. What's your honest opinion? And I know you were more of a Kobe guy, but what's your honest opinion of Jordan's competition and what made him great in his era?
Let's put it out here first. Now, I don't agree with what Bobby Knight said, but before Michael Jordan dribbled one time in the
Wait,
NBA,
what did Bobby Knight say?
I'm about to tell you. Before he dribbled, one dribble, he said, "This is the greatest player he has ever seen."
I agree with that.
Okay? He didn't take one shot in the NBA. Not one. Okay? That's what Bobby Knight said. Hall of Fame coach. I don't necessarily agree with that. That's what he said. All right, I think his word should be taken into consideration. As a smart guy, he's been around the game for a long time. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, true.
Now, was MJ playing against plumbers? Hell no. Hell no. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Isaiah Thomas, Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, John Stockton, Gary Payton, Karl Malone. Hell
Tim
no.
Hardaway.
Okay, you're talking about almost 25% of the top 75 players that played.
Right?
Michael Jordan played against.
Exactly.
Okay? He played against.
Right.
Now, as far as his era go, like I'm a guy who believes eras are around 5 to 7 to 10 years, all right? Anywhere between that. That's an era to me. 7 to 10 years, 5 to 8 years, that's an era. Okay, rules change in between that time. The style of play changes in between that time. That's an era to me. 20 years isn't an era of basketball. So much changes in 20 years. Okay. Now, in the 80s, do I think Michael Jordan was the best player? No, I don't. No, I don't. Okay. He probably the best athlete, wasn't the best player. You have to combine it all. Okay. Now, basketball is different than football in this sense, right?
Wait. Before you go there, I want to let you finish. Elaborate on that. What do you mean he was the most athletic but not the best player? Explain why. Why was Jordan not the best player in the 80s?
Okay. Compared, juxtaposed to football, right? Both are team sports, but one player in basketball can have more impact on winning than in football. Football is the ultimate team sport. It just is, okay?
Yeah.
But basketball, one person could literally score every point. Kobe Bryant showed you that. He outscored literally by himself 3 quarters. He beat the Dallas Mavericks 62-61, literally by himself, scored the team.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I'm saying is this, Jordan did not understand how to win in a team sport, all right? His greatness, his athleticism, all of that, he had to combine that and put it into a team concept and uplift the team to win. He had to learn how to do that. And he really didn't learn how to do that to the late 80s.
So you're saying he wasn't the best player because he didn't know how to utilize his team. And it takes you utilizing your...
I'm saying he wasn't the best player because he did not impact winning. That's why he wasn't the best player. He did not impact winning. All right? When he was younger, he just didn't impact winning.
Okay.
It is what it is.
All right. Coach Scott, do you agree with that?
I'm sorry.
You agree with what Coach J.O. just said?
I think he has a lot of prudence to what he was saying, and when you asked him, what do you mean he was the most athletic but wasn't the best? I liken that to Anthony Edwards, probably the most athletic player in the playoffs, but at this time, not the best player in the playoffs.
Think about this, Abaye. Think about this. You remember you were bringing it out. Anthony Edwards, he doesn't know what to do against the double team. He doesn't know what to do when he's getting trapped.
Right.
He doesn't know. The same with MJ. He didn't understand the physicality of the Pistons. He didn't know how to deal with that. He even to his own admission, I had to go get stronger. All right? My mental game had to get better. He had to get more mentally tough as well.
So let me ask you this now. So since Jordan, even if he's averaging 30 and 8 and 7 against the Pistons, although they're losing, you don't think he was the best player on the court?
In this sense, right? If you're in a vacuum, like he was the best talent per se, just from a talent perspective, if you want to just use the best talent, you would probably say yes. Okay? But how do you impact winning? How do you impact winning? How do you do that? Okay? You can be as talented as you want to, but does that talent impact winning?
Now, I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with you. And Coach Scott, you agree with what Coach J.O. saying?
I definitely I could back him. I could back him to a certain point. But
what's that certain point?
I think he's making some great points. I mean, you look at his best season, Mike's best season from a standpoint of scoring. 86, 87, he scored what? He averaged 37 points per game, but they weren't winning as a team.
Oh, Oh,
clearly the best player in the league, but weren't winning as a team. And the overall structure, like Coach JL was alluding to, the overall structure of the team, he found out that he couldn't do it all by himself. He needed assistance.
So does that mean he wasn't the best player or he wasn't the best team player?
But it's a team sport.
Well, I'm trying to see how far you and Coach got to agree. Because I remember we made the same point about LeBron James. Hold on one second. We made the same point about LeBron James. He can score 25, 7, and 7, but it's not impacting the team. And it was a disagreement on that. But kind of now we're talking about the same thing, just placing Jordan's name in the place of LeBron's in this particular conversation. It's the same thing. If Coach Scott, if you agree with that, then you got to agree with LeBron. Same way, he's not impacting winning. And therefore, he wouldn't be the best player, right?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's it. He wouldn't be the best player then, right?
Here's how it's different. Here's how it's different to me and how I receive it as it being different. Michael Jordan, with all his greatness, could not move his team past the hump. LeBron James, in his greatness, has allowed his teams to be moved through playoffs, 2 championship games, 2 finals games, just not the cigar all the time.
Now,
when we look at the history of the game, you're talking about the Lakers, who've been to the championship 32 times. You're talking about the Boston Celtics. You're talking about the next closest team is what? The 76ers, and then you got LeBron James smack dab in the middle of all of that, having 10 finals appearances. Those type of things say that he is a greater champion. He's a better team player than Michael Jordan. He's understood something faster than Michael Jordan understood it.
So here's my question to that. I will concede and give you that point and say you're right if we can get past this question. Coach JL, I'm going to come at you, Coach Scott. Because I want to keep it where we're starting at. We want to talk about the era, but we're kind of drifting a little bit. But I just want to ask this question real quick. Now, when we look at the teams that both players had, because if we're saying Jordan couldn't impact winning, we got to look at the team that's around him as well. Let's say hypothetically he had a good enough team that we can consider a playoff team and he still couldn't win playoffs, then I would say, you know what? You got a point. But if that team was not a good enough team and it was not put together at least to make the playoffs, a good enough playoff team, that's not a good point. Now, we can look at those Cavs, that early Cavs team, 2005, where LeBron went to, and the next few years, people forget and ignore, Coach J.O., that there were 2 other all-stars on that team. 4 out of the 5 starters scored double digits. And when LeBron left, so did the majority of the stars. I think all four of the 5 starters also left. So they're like, well, the Cavs went down. LeBron was the one who carried them. What I'm looking at and what I'm asking you, Coach J.O., is this. Does that not matter? If we're going to say if a player can affect his team, like you can't give Michael Jordan or LeBron James 4 kindergartners and say, hey, go win the championship, right? You got to at least give them a shot. But if they have those 4 kindergartners, you can't say, hey, they didn't affect their winning. Come on. Like I said, it's a team game. Now, if they have 4 other players that's good enough to get them to the playoffs or pass a few rounds, then we could say that. So saying what you said, you don't think that Jordan's team in 84, do you think Jordan's team in 84 was good enough to make the playoffs or go past the first round or deal with a Boston Celtics team with 4 or 5 Hall of Famers, an all-time great team?
I believe any team with Michael Jordan on it should make the playoffs. I don't care what team you're.
Even a Ricky Jordan?
I don't care who he played with. I believe they should make the playoffs. Now, do I believe they should be winning championships? No, I don't believe that. And this is why I say this about him, right? And I'm a Kobe guy, and I don't give Kobe a pass that year after Shaq left for not missing the playoffs. I don't give him a pass, even though that team wasn't good. Because if you are the best, I don't care. You should be able to lead your team to the playoffs at minimum if you're the best. Minimum. This is why I don't give LeBron passes for missing the play-in game. especially when you got somebody like an Anthony Davis, the Russell Westbrook, the Carmelo Anthony's on your team. Don't give them passes. But to your point, I didn't expect those early teams in Chicago to win a championship. Of course not. Of course he needed a team. That wasn't a championship level team at all, by no means, right? People may say LeBron James does more with less, but I'm going to argue against that because I watched Michael Jordan do that, right? I watched him do that. Now, we had a conversation and a show a few months ago about the best duos. And this is my point that I tried to make to you all. That wasn't a partnership at all. Scottie and MJ wasn't an equal or 50-50 partnership at all. That was big brother, that was little brother. Point blank, period. It was almost father and son. Not trying to be disrespectful, but it was almost father and son. Okay?
You did a good job of it.
Hey,
you did a good job of being disrespectful, though.
Hey, I didn't try to be. Okay? But what I'm telling you, when he went up against the old Pistons in 90, was that 90 in the Eastern Conference Final when they went to 7 games, right? If I'm not mistaken, okay, no one else on that team for the Bulls averaged over 15 points a game, okay? Nobody. We saw Michael Jordan try. We saw him elevate his game. We could see it year by year by year by year by year. Sometimes, like I tell you, sometimes you might not have to. You might not need to score 37. Sometimes you might need to score 31 and play more defense. Sometimes you might have to score 28 and pass the ball more.
I can agree with that.
Sometimes you might have to score 35 and do something else. All I'm saying is you have to figure out how to win. Michael Jordan went through the grind. He learned how to do that, but you cannot be the best and you're not winning. You can't. I don't see how you can be the best and you've never won anything.
Yeah, I can agree with that to an extent. I don't know if I would expect any team Michael Jordan to be on to make the playoffs. In that case, the Wizards should have made the playoffs. That case, the 84 and
But they would have made it if he wouldn't have got hurt.
Well, that's true. Well, let me rephrase that. The 84 Bulls, they're not making the playoffs. They win 7 games and 28 games in 83 and another 27 in 84. Nah, I don't think that's going to happen. And so, Coach Scott, to your point, I can see where you're coming from. So let me ask you, let's transition eras a little bit. Let's transition. I know Coach J.O., he's the Kobe guy. So I'm going to ask you, when we're transitioning eras, now we're talking about Michael Jordan in the 2000s. His name's Kobe Bryant. All right. I mean, it's the closest thing to Mike. Now, we seen Kobe kind of make the same transition in a sense when he got off by himself. Actually, with Shaq as well. That I don't trust my teammates enough type thing. To you, right. to you, what's your opinion? What made Kobe the best, and what transition did you see in Kobe? What's different? What was that same process he went through, like Mike, and what was different?
I think he had an understanding of the totality of greatness early. He came in the league and he wanted to learn from the greats. He ingratiated himself and he was just a workaholic. What he did not have in just sheer skill, he outworked every player on the court. And self-admittedly, one of the reasons why he said he did not trust his teammates because they weren't putting in the same amount of time, the same amount of effort, and the same amount of work. That's so nice. No, they did not appreciate, they did not deserve to take the last shot of the game. They did not earn the right to be playing in the fourth quarter, taking the key shots of the game. Those were reserved for him. That's what he would say. So in that respect, I think he found that out early from the greats. And one of the things that I really admired about Kobe's career throughout it all, his work ethic was unparalleled, but his skill package, it might be the best that the NBA has seen.
You think it's better than Jordan's?
Overall skill, yes, better than Jordan. He had a blueprint. And I think when you have a blueprint, you can start building your skill set off of something you've seen. Not saying that Michael's is diminished, or not saying that Michael's is not to be compared with the great. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, from a skill package, Kobe had a blueprint, and I think he refined that blueprint to the maximum effort that he could put in it. And with Mike, it was just more ability and talent along with the skill set.
So Coach Ayo, define the skill. Like, what is the skill? How is that different from the ability? Like, what are we talking about when we say skill set? Can he shoot better? Can he dribble better? Like, or what's the ability and what's the skill? What are we talking about?
The primary skills in basketball is dribbling, passing, and shooting, right? But ability is speed, footwork, vertical jump. You know what I'm saying? Like that's your ability, right? But the skill, dribbling, passing, and shooting is a skill. Those are the primary skills in basketball, right? Defense is also a skill you can go into. Rebounding is even a skill. Okay, but dribbling, passing, and shooting are those major skills, right? Now, to Coach Scott's point, Kobe Bryant outworked everybody, right? He modeled his game to his own admission after Jerry West, the Michael Jordans of the world, the Bill Russells, because those are the people that he said he went to and talked to. How do I get it done in the NBA?
Right.
Gary Payton admitted, he said, Kobe Bryant, so a lot of people call him an arrogant prick. Gary Payton said that kid was not afraid to ask the people before him how to get it done. He wasn't afraid of that. Gary Payton said Kobe used to come to him, hey, how do you guard this? How do you guard that? Can you show me how you stop this? Can you show me how you stop that? So Kobe was a sponge. He was literally a sponge. He stole from everybody and put it. He was almost like an artist, like a musician. Right. He stole from everybody to create his game. And most people look at it as, he just took Michael Jordan's game and modeled his game after Michael Jordan, so he is a copycat. But how they say it, if it ain't broken, why try to fix something that's not broken?
Yeah.
Why try to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
It's not that he's not original. He just took from everybody and developed his game based on that.
I can see that. I can agree with that. Now, I would probably dispute it when it came to the mid-range shooting because Jordan was a pure assassin mid-range, but skill, passing, shooting, dribbling, I could see that, especially when it comes to the three-point. Coach Scott, you think that when it came down to Jordan and Kobe, that's what they had in common? Sponge?
Very much so. This just the ability to see it and do it. Most athletes have to rep it and rep it and rep it. They could see it and do it. Just looking at film, the way that Kobe patterned certain things after Mike's game, but seeing the technical flaw in Mike's game as it pertains to Mike was just so much more athletic on certain ends. Mike could raise up and shoot over anybody in the league at the time. Kobe didn't have that ability to do so, but what he could do was he could create more space than Mike. That explosive first step, and then he bring you back to actually set up a little bit more space because he couldn't elevate over everybody like Mike could. Getting to the basket, being tenacious with how he drove with his right, but being able to finish with his left. That was something that he refined based off of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan could finish all the way to the bucket with his left. Other players in the league at the time really weren't as advantaged as those players. And looking at Kobe's game, finishing on the left or the right side of the bucket was no problem for him because it was a skill set that he refined for sure, based off of footwork.
Do you guys think that Kobe was the best player in his era? Looking at Shaq, looking at Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, I think, is one of the more underrated players in NBA history, honestly. But looking at those type of players, even Allen Iverson, maybe for a 5-year span, do you think he was probably one of the best players, if not the best player in the league at some point? Like, thinking about who was actually playing at the time, do you say, yes, Kobe Bryant, yes, still the best player in the league?
Oh, it wasn't close. Kobe Bryant, 2000, it wasn't close. It wasn't. Like, literally, you're talking about 5 championships. You're talking about what? 7 finals appearances. 7 finals appearances in what, 11 years? In that 11-year stretch from 2000 to 2010, it wasn't close. Like, it really wasn't close. He dominated the matchups with Tim Duncan, even though there's different positions. He beat those teams. It's just what it was. LeBron hasn't came into his own then. That one opportunity that they had to meet in the finals, you know what happened? Kobe held up the end of his deal. LeBron did it. Okay, in 2009. It didn't happen. I'm sorry. They were making all the puppet. You remember the little puppet commercials with LeBron and the rings with Kobe?
I remember that.
LeBron James teams had the best record in the NBA, 66 wins. Okay, lost to the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. Kobe Bryant beat that team in 5 games. It was what it was. That was the opportunity to meet. It didn't happen. Okay?
That's true.
2010, another opportunity to meet. All right, LeBron James got beat in the second round by the Boston Celtics. Kobe Bryant beat that same team 7 games. That's literally what happened. I don't care how you slice it. I don't care how you dice it. Just what it was. Okay, the opportunity was there.
And I actually would say the amount of information that you pose on that is right. But when we look at who's the better player head to head, out of 22 competitions, LeBron James has the edge. It's not even close. It's 16-6. So when we say who impact the game more, 16 times it looks like LeBron James impacted the game a lot more than the 6 that Kobe Bryant had.
Is it fair to say though? Is it fair to say that when you look at those head-to-heads, 22 head-to-heads, 16-6, is it fair to say that when they played against each other, LeBron did come into town on his horse with a Dwayne Wade, with a Chris Bosh, and or whoever he was playing with at the time, and Kobe still had not a top 75 player with him, right? He had Gasol, which is all-star. Odom, I believe, made an all-star a couple years, but Kobe, in comparison, did not have in my opinion, did not have the same type of squad that LeBron was rolling in with the 2013 Miami Heat, or am I wrong? Would you consider that?
I would say all of their matchups wasn't with the Miami Heat, but no, when they played and he was with Miami, I could see, I would say Kobe was on his farewell tour. Let me say that he was getting ready to do his farewell tour and kind of gracefully walk out of the league for sure.
Let me say this right now. I do believe that the regular season during those times meant way more than it does now.
Facts.
Okay, I'm talking about like literally
night and
regular
day.
Season today is almost non-existent.
Night and day.
It's literally almost non-existent. Okay, but all of those were literally regular season games. They never faced each other in the playoffs, not one time. Okay, so we do have to take that into consideration. But the 2010s, I don't even think that's an argument in the 2010s. Like, I really don't even think it's a legit argument. Like, it just isn't. You know what I'm saying? Kobe had the most rings in there, during that time. Like, he was the most winningest player during that time in the 2010s. That's just what it was. You know what I'm saying? He dominated that particular era during that time.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the records right now of when most of those wins came. Yeah, it was definitely during Kobe's exit. The early years, Kobe he started off winning more, but then as the older he got, it started going the other way. But speaking of LeBron James, though, all right, since we can just transition into that era. Now, we talked about Mike and what he could do and couldn't do, and he was a sponge, and Kobe, what he could do and he couldn't do, he was a sponge, and they both were the top players of their era. Let me just put it out there. Now, we know what LeBron has done. Now, but we're talking about Michael Jordan. We're talking about Kobe Bryant. And we're asking the question, who were better players than them in those eras? And both times it was no one. Can we point to anyone, Coach J.O., that was a better player in LeBron James' era while he was in his peak?
I mean, of course we can. But like I say, how are we going to determine what an era is, right? I laid out what my definition of an era was. I said about 5 to 7 or 7 to 10 years, somewhere between, I could say 6.5 to 8.5 years, somewhere around there. Coach Scott, you agreed with me on that. You did. Okay? You did. Over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, there's a player by the name of Stephen Wardell Curry. Okay? He has 4 rings, 2 MVPs, back-to-back MVPs, a finals MVP, 2 scoring titles over the last 10 years. LeBron James, 1 championship. no MVPs, no scoring title. None. Over the last 10 years. None. That's a fact.
So wait. Which because he's been playing 20. Which 10 years are you comparing the second 10?
I said the last 10 years. The last 10 years.
All right.
The last 10 years. Okay.
But let's talk about the first 10 years first. Was there anybody better than him in those first 10 years?
Oh, yeah. We discussed that in the 2000s. We already discussed who was the best player in the 2000s. That was Kobe Bryant. Okay. So now, if you want to go from about 2011 to 2016, I would say that's LeBron James' era. That was the era from 2011 to 2016 in which he dominated. He did. I could say that. You know, he got back-to-back MVPs. He got 3 titles during that time. You know, you came back from down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. You was on your high horse. You got 3 Finals MVPs during that time from 2011 to 2016. You went to 5 straight finals. You dominated that particular era right there from about 2011 to 2016, 2017. I would give him that. Okay? Anything after that, no.
Coach Scott, I can see it. It's all right here. So I'm just going to give it to you. You got it. Where he went wrong at? Where did he go wrong?
We can't be serious. Now, look, I love Steph Curry. I love what he's done for the game, and I've loved how he's expanded the game. But we got to be serious here. We got to really just like slow down the conversation and say, hey, look, what are we really saying? Are we really comparing Steph Curry to a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, and a LeBron James as it pertains to the dominance of the game, what they've brought to the game? Because I don't even think it's there in the same. It's not even the same stratosphere. It's not in the same conversation.
We talking about
it's more
errors.
like the
errors. Like how did he do? I don't think nobody thinks Curry is equal to Jordan or Kobe. But we're talking about the errors. Like, who in his era did he dominate? Was he the better player in this particular set of years?
No.
In that era? No. Okay.
No.
You got it.
I don't agree with that at all. I just don't. I don't agree with it. I think Steph had a niche. He has a niche, and his niche is long range shooting. He's changed the game. He revolutionized the game. He is the greatest shooter that will go down in the history of the game, no matter how long the game is played. He's going to be one of the greatest shooters of all time forever. But when we're talking about the game of basketball, he is not a full meal deal. He is not the big ticket that LeBron James has been to this basketball game. He's just not. And Coach J.O., we got to be fair. And when we're talking about being fair, we're not talking about the long range shooting, the deep ball, half court shooting from the logo. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is like you spoke earlier about. We're talking about dribbling. We're talking about passing. We're talking about shooting. We're talking about rebounds. We're talking about influencing the game and making your teammates better. I'm not talking about when you're playing with the Kevin Durant and you can create space because everybody's afraid of all of the shooters on the court. I'm talking about a full season of it's you versus a team of stars. What do you do? And we saw it this year. His team did not even make the playoffs.
Hold up. Being disingenuous now.
Was that a fact or not?
Hold on.
Was it a fact or not, Coach?
Hold on.
I'm going to give it to you. I just want to know, was it a fact or not?
You're being disingenuous. Abaya, you got to come and be a witness in this. Okay? You got to come and be a witness.
Was it a fact?
I was just back here minding my business.
You got to come and be a witness. The Warriors won 46 games. 46 games. What did you always say, Coach Scott? Well, if the Lakers record, they had the same, if this was the year before, they would be a top 4 seed or so Absolutely. On and so forth. Ain't that what he said about it? Yes or no?
That's exactly what I said. You know, I'm here. I'm still here.
The Dallas Mavericks was in the NBA Finals. They was a 50 win team. The Warriors won 46 games this year. You're acting like as if they didn't have a great year based upon who they have. Like, what was that team supposed to do outside of what they supposed to? That's a 55 win team, a 60 win team? No, it isn't. Okay.
X-lay one player. It's the same components of. Let me tell you what the Warriors are. The Warriors are the Boston Celtics. They're due. It's the same bones of the team. It's the same bones.
No, see, you're going by names.
Those are the same.
You're just going by names. You're going by names.
Those
literally
names
going
are
by names.
Mainstays, though. Those names are not kitchen names. Those are mainstays. Those are names.
But if this was 10 years ago, then yes. If this was 10 years ago, you're living in yesteryears. Okay? This isn't the Klay Thompson from 2017. This isn't the Draymond Green from 2016. It's not. Okay? It's not. And the last time I checked in 2022, Steph Curry beat this same Boston Celtics team in 6 games. That's what happened.
The same. Right? Say it again. Say it for me one more time. Say it for me one more time.
Boston Celtics. I'm going to tell you why.
Same. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You proving my point.
This is the point, right? This is why we have to look at that run that Steph went on in 2022 as one of the greatest playoff runs in NBA history, considering what he had. Okay? This is not Klay from 2017. That's not that Klay anymore. It wasn't that Draymond anymore. It wasn't.
I'm not arguing the fact that his teammates' skill sets may have diminished. I'm not arguing that Draymond may have been a little bit more of a headache than a uplift on the team this past season or the previous season. That is not my argument. The argument that I'm making is they're due. It's like the Boston Celtics when everybody's, they're due. The bones of the team have been the same since it started its run.
Let me ask this. Well, all right, so let me just start this over. What would we say, all right, this era? What would make the best player? How would we define who the best player in this era is? What would they have to do? What would they have to accomplish for us to say that's the best player in this era?
What, like, okay, 2 MVPs, 4 championships, 2 scoring titles, 6 finals appearances, 6 finals.
You still talking about Steph Curry? I want to know.
Right.
So you're saying they got to do something like that to be called the best player in the era?
But if no one has did that, no one has came close to that over the last 8 to 10 years, then how can we say someone is even close to him?
So, Coach Scott, with what he's saying, all right, 2 NBA finals, 4 championships, 6 finals appearances.
No, 4 NBA final champions.
What'd I say?
2.
I said it wrong. But with that being said, right, if LeBron James hasn't done that within, let's say, 8 to 10 year window, is it safe to say within this 8 to 10 years, Steph has dominated or been the best player within that window?
I'm
just asking a question.
I'm gonna say this. I'm
just asking a question.
You're right. If we're using that criteria, you're right.
But this is what this show is about. We're talking about eras.
That's all I said.
Hey, I'm gonna be as genuine as a $1 bill. You're right, Coach. You're right.
So here's the thing. What I don't want to get misconstrued is this. I don't think, and I hope Coach, I don't know what Coach J is saying, but I'm not saying, I don't want nobody to think that we're saying that Steph Curry is a better player in their primes or peaks than, LeBron James. I don't believe that. I don't think nobody believes that.
Hold it by.
Let me say me. Let me speak for myself. I don't think Steph Curry is a better, Steph Curry peak for peak, prime for prime against LeBron James. I'm not going to say he's a better player. All right. But, if we're comparing this in eras, because I think my best player's definition is going to be a little bit different from y'all's, all right? Because I don't think you necessarily have to win every championship or win every MVP. And I think kind of Coach Scott saying that to see who is the best player. If no one can stop you, I can grab the rebounds, I can get the assists, I can get the scoring titles, I can do this, and you can't stop me as a player. Then a best player, he's the best player. The most successful in the era, and this is what Coach J.O.'s pointing out, would be not Coach J.O.'s pointing out is Steph Curry. But with that being said, they're in that same successful era that Curry has had. He was actually the best player as well when we look at it all around. If we look at the scoring and the assist and getting his team rallied and everything that we've talked about so far, I think he actually did both within that. So that's how I see it. Coach Scott, I just want to know if you disagree with that assessment.
Yes, I disagree with the assessment. Okay. And here's why I disagree with the assessment. Because in those championships where it was LeBron and Steph competing against each other, LeBron was the best, head and shoulders above the rest. He was clearly the best player in the playoffs.
No, he wasn't.
Even over KD?
Absolutely.
You think he performed better than KD?
I do. Yes.
You think so, Coach J.O.?
And here's the greatness of LeBron James as it pertains to this specific subject. We're talking about a forward being compared to point guards and shooting guards, ladies and gentlemen. We're not talking about a flash in the pan point guard or shooting guard. We're talking about a power forward. We're talking about a small forward, power forward being compared to shooting guards.
What's KD?
That's what I'm talking about.
What position KD play?
Hold on. Aren't we? Why is Steph Curry, a 6'3", 180-pound dude getting straight out the pool, even in the same conversation as a Kobe, a MJ, or LeBron? The fact that he can even be in this, the fact that he even is a topic of discussion says a lot about Steph.
It does, and I don't want to look over that. It does, Coach. But what I'm saying is, you take away Steph Curry's ability to shoot the long ball like he does at the clip that he does. Does Steph Curry help his team win at the clip that they historically win at? And the answer is no. And
I'm glad you went there,
Coach.
I'm glad you went there. I'm glad you went there.
Okay,
right?
Go ahead, Coach.
Okay. We talk about, you said if he couldn't shoot. Okay. What if LeBron couldn't bulldoze his way to the paint?
I'm glad.
Where would he be then? LeBron James is a layup merchant.
Okay.
He just is. He's a layup merchant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to give you something.
Okay.
10,005 layups attempt. 10,000 layup points. Yes. 7,401 layup.
He got ripped
right.
Mike for this one.
7,104 layup points, right? Points without layups. His point totals without layups. All right. 24,256. All right. 24,256 points without layups. Okay. He's a 17 point per game player without layups. Cool. He literally is. So if he could not bulldoze his way to the paint, what would he be? What would LeBron James?
But Coach J.O., hold on though. But see, I think that's an unfair question though. I'll be honest, and the reason I say it's unfair because that's his game. The best player is going to utilize their talent or their abilities to get what they need to get, which is points, rebounds, assists, and a win. So I can't say if he wasn't that, then we take this away. That's his game.
But literally, he just did that to Steph.
No, I asked the question, and I'm glad you asked me that question. Here's how LeBron James' game has been refined over the period of years since you asked. LeBron James shot 37.8% from three this year. If he's not getting it done in the paint, he's getting it done on the three ball. His mid-range game needs help. Yes.
Oh, I know it needs help. I know it needs help.
But
I know it needs a lot of help.
The paint and long ball game is on par. So much so, he shoots 34% career, which is better than Kobe and Mike. So when I'm talking about when you take away a part of someone's game, what do they look like? Yeah, LeBron James still look like LeBron James.
Really?
Because he can rebound, because he still can assist in the points of the team.
Really quickly, I want to go backwards before you go forward, Coach J.O. I got those numbers for KD and LeBron. You say he outperformed LeBron. Well, KD actually scored more, 30.3 to LeBron's 28.4. And when we went to rebounds, LeBron has that advantage 10 to 7, assists 7 to 4, and steals. They're pretty much even. Blocks per game, they're almost even. KD's up. Field goal shooting percentage, KD's up by at least 6%. 3-point shooting, KD's up by another 9%. Field goal free throw shooting, he's almost up by 20% in their head-to-head, matchup. So I don't know about that one. Coach Scott, it seemed like KD was clearly the better player when they played each other. But Coach J.O., it's back to you. I just want to bring that up.
Hey, let me correct this, right? He made those 7,401 layups out of the 10,000. Okay, let me put that out there. Now, okay, in the playoffs, you just talked about what he shoot better than Kobe, right? In the playoffs. From 3 feet to 10 feet, in the playoffs, Kobe Bryant, 47%. LeBron James, 41%. From 10 to 16 feet, Kobe Bryant, 45%. LeBron James, 36%. From 16 feet to the three-point line, Kobe Bryant, 40%. LeBron James, 38%. From the three-point line in the playoffs, I'm talking about before this season now. Before this season, 33%. LeBron James, 33%. Free throw percentage, Kobe Bryant in the playoffs, 82%. LeBron James, 74%. We see, again, when I call LeBron James a layup merchant, because that's what he is. It's a layup merchant. When it's time to get in the mid-range, to do something other than bulldoze your way to the paint and dunk or lay up the ball, the skill, the finesse, the touch, the footwork, the ability to work in that area of the court just doesn't exist. It doesn't. I'm sorry.
Coach Scott, in your response to Coach J.O., out of all the players we just talked about, I want you to add this in: Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, and Steph. Rank those players 1 through 4 from the GOAT all the way to the 4th ranked player in your response to everything Coach J.O. just said.
Ooh, that's a hell of a question, everybody.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
That's a hell of a question.
It's easy.
It's easy for somebody who's not a subjective person. It's easy for a LeBron hater. It is very, very, very easy. And you know what? I'm gonna call Gary, and I'm gonna have him call you. I'm gonna have him call you to explain why.
He even got called Gary. Gary stood us up. He was scared to come on here. He didn't want to have this conversation.
Oh wow, Gary, no man.
Yeah, he stood up. He didn't want to come.
Here's how I see it. Here's how I see it. Michael Jordan is the best player we've ever seen with the basketball. He's the best basketball player we've ever seen physically with the ball in his hands. LeBron James is the most versatile, most dynamic player as it pertains to the game of basketball. Kobe Bryant is by far the most skilled and by far the most work ethic that you can put in a human being to play basketball. And Steph Curry is probably the most gifted shooter we've ever seen, and probably that we'll ever see in the game. And that's my 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I actually can't. Hey, Coach J.O., I don't even have a cup with me right now, so I ain't drinking nothing. I can't argue with that. That was a good lineup. Like, what's your thoughts? I see you over there sucking your teeth, rolling your eyes. You almost passed out. What was wrong with what he just said? You rank yours 1 through 4.
James 110.
No. When we say Michael Jordan is the best player ever, there's no need to not. I mean, there's no need to say anything other than that. The fact that you're trying to add as if LeBron James is even remotely close to Michael Jordan is an insult. Right. And I'm not even saying like LeBron James is a bad player. By no means. He's one of the greatest. But it's literally like levels in between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. It's literally levels. It's levels in between them. Okay?
How many levels, Coach?
Maybe three. Maybe three. Like literally maybe 3 levels.
How many players sit between those 3 levels?
Thank you.
Probably 6. Probably 6.
So what you saying that, and I'm not going to contest you on it, give us your ranking out of these 4. Line them up.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why. All right. Michael Jordan is the only player in NBA history, only player, okay, to win MVP, scoring title. All right. First team All-NBA, first team All-Defense, and Finals MVP in one season. Did it 4 times. Did it 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know Coach J.O. isn't the stat and accolade guy, but when it comes to Michael Jordan, he passes all of the tests. He passes the eye test, he passes the stat test, and he passes the championship test. He passes them all.
Coach J.O., we kind of question your eye test, though.
Them.
Ever since the Phoenix series, we've been questioning your eye test, brother. But go ahead, finish up.
Okay. So Michael Jordan is the clear-cut best player ever. Okay?
Right.
Number 2, we cannot say Kobe Bryant is the closest thing we've seen to Michael Jordan, and we say Michael Jordan is the best player ever, then say someone else is better than Kobe Bryant. We can't do that.
I can see that. Yep.
Like, we really can't do that.
Here's why we can, Coach.
Wait, before you go, Coach Scott, because I want to get this 4 out of him. It's really hard. We got to get this.
No, it's not hard at all, right? It's not hard at all. Now, LeBron James is a distant third. He's a distant third. All right. And you know how you, Coach Scott and the buyer like to put those the 1A, 1B. Okay. We got a 3A and a 3B. LeBron James is 3A, Steph Curry is 3B. All right. We don't have a 4. We got 3A and we got 3B.
Coach Scott, you see how he like to pull me into that category whenever I say anything remotely disagree with him. But go ahead, you got it.
He did. No, Coach. The reason I'm asking, and I think you're entitled to how you feel about the way you rank your athletes. But here's my question as it pertains to the actual game and the evolution of their games. Did Michael Jordan game outside of him maturing as a player, learning how to utilize his teammates? Did his game change from when he came into the league until he left? Did his game really change? Because
it did.
To me, he was always a great mid-range player. He was always playing above the rim. But as he tapered off, as he got older, his game, kind of stayed mid-range, and
he was a post player later. He wasn't a post player early in his career.
He wasn't a post player, but his mid-range game was there. Yes,
right. But he wasn't a post player. Like, he literally was one of his post game could rival Hakeem's post game. Literally, outside of Hakeem, you would say Michael Jordan was the best post player in the NBA, offensively.
And see, that's where Tim Duncan and those guys come in. So I don't know.
No. I'm talking about during his era, he was the best post player outside of like Kareem. Like, who was more polished than Michael Jordan on the block?
Hakeem.
Right. I'm saying outside of Hakeem. I don't know anyone that was more polished than him. Like, okay, really outside of Kareem too. I'm not really including Kareem. I'm talking about in that 90s era.
Right.
I don't know anyone.
So, but to my point, what I'm saying is even his footwork and his post game is still his mid-range game, right? He never developed a 3-ball really. That just wasn't his game. That wasn't the way he played basketball. It just wasn't.
But it was a reason why, though. It was a reason why he didn't do that.
Definitely was a reason why.
He, even to his own admission, stated that he didn't want to shoot threes. And again, we got to understand that the three-point shot, especially in the 80s when Jordan was coming into the league, when he was in college, it was a gimmick shot. It literally it's literally equivalent to almost someone shooting from the timeline. Those logo threes that Dame and Steph that's how the three is looked at during those times. It was a gimmick shot. Michael Jordan said, I cannot shoot threes because the threes is going to take away from my game, and I don't want to rely on shooting threes. That's why he was able to average 37 points a game without averaging one full three-point attempt per game.
And a good point to support that statement before we get out of here is if you look at Anthony Towns, the Timberwolves, right? That guy should not be lunging from half court, but he's learned to rely on a three so much it has changed and taken away from his game at the same time. And that's what Jordan was saying. If I rely on this shot, I'm not going to slash to the rim. I'm going to, when I need the points, I'm going to pull up a three-pointer versus driving to the rim, picking up the foul, getting the easy free throw. I think it's brilliant, but today's time, people look at that as, hey, you just couldn't shoot. I thought it was strategic, Coach Scott. I thought it was a good point.
I think it was very strategic by Mike. But the point I was making is when you look at how the games of those players evolved over a period of time, Mike stayed with a great mid-range game. Kobe, he stayed with a great mid-range game. Kobe got hampered with injuries, and his mid-range game kind of went to it tapered off. I'm just going to call it what it is. His mid-range game tapered off. He was still Kobe. He still could create shots, and he would still make his shots. But his game tapered off. When you look at LeBron James's game, it has always been in the paint, in the paint, in the paint. And as he's gotten older, his last 10 years, like I like to say, he's been refined like wine. The man's game is either inside or behind the arc. His mid-range game, he hasn't had it. He hasn't had a mid-range game really since he came into the NBA. But one thing he has done is worked on his footwork, worked on his inside the paint game, and refined his long ball. This is why I'm saying these are the things that makes great players great. He's still refining his game.
I can agree with that. He has refined his game, and he is a great player, and they're great for their own different reasons. That's why we want to discuss each player within their eras, because I knew it was going to kind of turn into this LeBron, Michael Jordan debate that we always seem to do. But if I had to line up the players, I would say Jordan is the greatest player in his era for most of the time he played. And then when we come down to LeBron, I would give LeBron a good 8-year stretch where he was the most dominant, maybe 10-year stretch where he's the most dominant. But I would have to say Curry was definitely in that era of being a dominant player that people just don't want to give him credit for. And when it comes down to Kobe, I'm probably with J.O. on that one. There's probably no question. I know I threw Timmy out there earlier, but I just want to see what he was going to say. But Kobe, that was hands down the best player of his era. But that is the end of the show. We have reached our limit. We're actually over our limit. Guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Follow us on all social media. Follow us on Spotify where we host the podcast. Make sure you follow us and click that great bell so whenever we go live, whenever we drop videos, you guys will be first to see it and come and join us. With that being said, we are out. From GOAT Debate Media, we want to say shout out and give respect to one of the legends of sports, the great Willie Mays in baseball. He did so much for the game. He was a pleasure to watch. And for even like anyone our age who wasn't born, just looking back at some film and highlights of this guy, he was amazing. I myself want to say shout out to Willie Mays, the legend, and condolences to his family. We'll never have another like him.